Talofa lava, welcome to Tech Voyagers. My name is Julia Arnott-Neenee, or Ne'ene, depending on who you're talking to in my family. We have here Dylan and Tausani today, and I'm really excited to introduce them to our series of Māori and Pacific that are smashing it in the digital and tech world. So I'm going to ask you both to introduce yourselves.
What's up everyone? My name is Tausani. I'm a software engineer at Halter. My background is, I'm Afakasi, so my dad is from Samoa and my mum is Palangi. So.
Hey, epic. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Kia ora korua. What up everyone? It's really humbling to be here. My name's Dylan. I hail from the beautiful coast, Ngāti Awa, Ngāti Porou. You know, small town boy, but in the big smoke now doing product world. And I love doing it at the moment, so yeah.
Hey, awesome, awesome. It's nice to have you both here. Some strong Taine energy today. I kind of love to know, where did it all start for you and around technology? Like, did you even know what that was when you were young bucks back in the day, or how did you get into this space?
Man, still a young buck. What are you talking about?
Come on. I saw the bit craze.
Well, yeah, I guess tech wasn't really the mission back when I was younger. Back in my still younger buck days, it was all about just creativity and the opportunity to just make stuff and design stuff. So I have a design background, and that kind of stemmed from, you know, my mum and dad always giving me papers back when paper was a thing, drawing all the things, sketching away, getting anything I could to draw. I was really into gaming. I was really into like anime and all those things that you know, a young Māori kid was watching on the telly. And then it sort of just stemmed from what could I do with that type of situation. You know, my parents had all the ideas of like, we need to succeed, you know, this is the way, you know, the mainstream kind of roles of, you know, accounting, you're gonna be an engineer, you're gonna be a lawyer, you're gonna be a doctor. That's all boring to me. That was really good at numbers, and I was trying to follow my brother's footsteps, and my dad was like, yeah, you're gonna be an engineer too. Engineering. Wow. And then I'm just like, nah, that's just not me. And then, as I said before, I'm really creative, and I was like, how can I merge a bit of both of those worlds? And yeah, and then kind of found this new course that was in Wellington, Victoria, Design Innovation. And it was like product design.
It sounds super fancy, yeah. Design innovation.
It was pretty legit. Yeah. It was the first, it was like, you know, all my family thought I was just drawing pictures, but in reality it was like problem solving and
drawing pictures away.
Still drawing pictures.
Still drawing pictures. part of the passion. Yeah. And then it just sort of, you know, took off from there. At that point I still didn't know technology. Yeah. In Gisborne, we don't necessarily get all the opportunities, or, you know, this is pathways you could go down. It was still, you know, the lawyer, the doctor, the engineer. And until I was in Wellington, I could see opportunities, and it wasn't someone coming to me and telling me, this is kind of where you could go down, you're in this role, this is where you can go down. It was like still my own way of figuring it out. And you know, that kind of carried on throughout that journey into where I am today. It was a bit of a weird journey in itself. It had many different routes to get there, and it was about a bit of trusting my gut and what I thought where I would want to be, and where technology was enabling us to succeed in certain areas of this new kind of landscape that was changing at the same time. So yeah, I guess that's originally started.
Yes, I love it. And I'm going to come back to the actual, how did you get in, and that whole story, and what were those journey points that have gotten you to where you are today. But I want to go back to something you talk about, you know, you're from a small town in Gisborne and you're here now in the big smoke. How does it feel reflecting back onto your journey and thinking about where you started to where you are today?
Honestly, surreal, and I didn't think I was going to be in this position at all. You know, there was, towards the end of my high school days, there was things of 3D modeling coming out. Or,
oh, wow.
Yeah, and like, I guess it got to our areas a little bit slower than everywhere else. You know, decile 1 school. It was there wasn't necessarily a lot of opportunities. We're still stuck in the tikanga Māori way, where we had a lot of opportunities to pursue in our culture. And carving and understated. It was amazing. But in terms of what else there was, you know, that was the missing elements. Again, it still doesn't feel right. It still doesn't feel like it's hit, because in my role, or when I first started in this tech space, there was 2 Māori people at the biggest New Zealand tech-owned company, and that was my manager who hired me. So
just find the brownies, find the brownies.
What about you, bro?
Man, like pretty similar to yours. Like I grew up in a very like artistic, creative family. Mum and dad were like musicians. And I'm an only child as well, so like that was pretty much what I thought I was gonna be like, carry on to do like in my life. And mum always tried to get me to do like a lot of different things when I was younger. So like gymnastics or swimming or violin and drums. You know, I think drums was the one that always stuck with me. So got a good rhythm there. But yeah, I, like from a young age, I was just like a lot of things that just what's it called? Got like experience from. But music was the one that always stuck with me. And I didn't know about the tech space. It was always just like, I'm gonna be a musician and or just something that I want to be like creative in. And I still remember back when I was young, my dad brought home one of these, the Macs or E-Macs or something, and it had GarageBand on it. And that I didn't know at the time, but that was my first cross between like tech and music. You know, and it was software too, but I'm just a kid, I don't know what that is. All I know is I can make music from this, I can be creative. And so that's what I spent most of my years doing, is like teaching myself how can I make the same songs that I can hear on the radio and stuff like that. So that was me for many years. And then I got into doing like contract work. And being able to do some music for there's a performing arts school that was around in Avondale. Cool. So
Avondale.
It was called Pipa, and the kids there, or the students there, they would have every 6 months they have like a showcase, but they needed music for them to perform. Wow. And mean opportunity for me just to get in there, because usually I'm just there like I'm used to like just making beats, but that gave me like a lot more creativity. Like there's something else out there, like it's like theater, and like it has to be like there's different sounds to it. So that was a cool thing for me. Then just over the years, I think I just kept having conversations with like one of my mentors about, I don't know, just my journey in life. And it was a random conversation we had that he planted like the seed that was like, oh, why don't you have a go at, have you ever thought about building software or apps or something like that? And it had never crossed my mind, because, you know, I'd just been stuck in this like music industry thing. And I think that seed just kept growing in me, and then, or the idea just kept growing. Then over the years, I just thought like, I might just have a little crack at this. Hey! Have a little go.
Have a little crack.
Yeah. And at the time, there was a course similarly, actually in Wellington as well. But I was still in Auckland, and I didn't pull the trigger at that time, because I was like, I have to make a big move, blah, blah, blah. Years go by, then like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do it. But then now they opened up a campus in Auckland. So I was like, oh, yep, that makes it a bit easier. And you can get a student loan from the government as well. So I was like, oh, yep, have a good go. Took about 3 months to do this course.
What was the course?
So the course is called, the place is called Dev Academy.
Oh, Dev Academy. Yeah, oh, yes.
Dev Academy, so, like, people like Eteroa, would have went to Dev Academy. A few other, I guess, familiar people in tech now. But yeah, same thing. This was all just a new journey for me as well. and also not knowing if this is gonna, is this the right decision for me right now? And I just thought I'd just try and take the plunge and see what's out there, pretty much. And that's how I stumbled upon getting into tech, I guess. Not stumbled. I did have to hustle my way to get into the space because, you know, coming from the music industry, like there's a few people that I know in there, but jump to the tech side, like I don't know anyone. So that was good. Hustling, going to meetups and going to one of your events that you set up. I forgot the name of it, but it was
okay.
It was great. Yeah, it was
was it the music?
It was a music one. So there was like another cross with like music and tech. I was like, oh, yo, should go to this. But yeah, that was like I guess the first few meetups that I went to, and just carried on and ended up getting a role at Halter, and even still right now, just learning heaps about product or technology and how much software is like. I don't know. It's just like a massive thing to learn.
I want to ask you both a question around like, you know, you both said that you didn't necessarily jump into the industry because you knew about it yourselves. Like someone else had kind of mentioned it, or you were noticing things when you were studying. How do you even define this space? Like if you were to think about it and share that to someone else and plant that seed, how would you even explain what digital and tech as an industry or as a career path, like what even is it?
Good question. No, you can.
Technology in itself is like it's a huge space, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of facets, there's a lot of directions that enable something. It's meant to, emerging tech or technology is meant to sort of change the perception of, you know, what can be done through this medium. And these mediums range in the plethora from software, web.
Plethora. Wow. Did everyone hear that word? Plethora. I don't even know how to spell it, but plethora is what the man said.
Man's nose.
Oh, wow.
The range.
Well,
The range of the man. The range of the man.
Flex.
Just articulating very complicated situations. It's sort of, we're sort of taking these enablers to support or change what currently exists, structures and systems, a current state to do something else better or worse, or for a purpose, for a vision, to solve a problem. We're using this as a medium. And the technology space kind of, can be used for quite a lot of good, but then also has been used quite badly by a lot of people, and we're just trying to, for me, figuring out what is the purpose for using technology. You don't necessarily always have to use technology for technology's sake. It's always you're trying to understand the users or the customers and understanding what their problem is, and technology has just used their medium as a way to solve those kind of problems.
But I wanted to ask you too, Tausani, how do you define, or how would you share it, or like celebrate it as an opportunity?
I think, like, I guess my words is like, it's just basically like tools, but like digital tools. So you got your hammers and your saws and whatnot. Then you've also got your digital tools where, like, you know, say for instance, like GarageBand was a way for me to, you know, it was a tool for me to get my creativity out. So that's probably what I would say. Like, technology is and it's I think like moving forward, like the direction that we're going in terms of like humanity, like more digital. It's gonna be more and more like important that that us as a community as well, that like just to like be familiarized and just to know, try and think about like future states and what other tools could you think about that could be helpful right now, or are there tools right now that you want to help to create, I guess. And I think technology just helps that, I guess.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's a really nice and easy analogy. Dylan, what was the first tool you ever played with back in the day? And I keep on referring to back in the day like it was so long ago. But it wasn't that long ago. It wasn't that long ago.
The days were just the other day,
I'm
right?
being sad. I'm being sad. Because you said you started to do things like gaming back when you were younger. Like, what were you like tattooing with? What were you testing out? Or how did you even start to realize that you're kind of good and really smart at figuring things out in this space?
My dad didn't think so. No. No, I love you, Dad. Yeah, I guess again, to understand if you're good at something, you have to have been given the opportunity to do that. And you know, my dad basically raised me and my mum, but with that, when I became a solo parent, there wasn't, you know, we had to figure out where the money was going. And you know, this kind of stemmed from primary school, that we didn't necessarily get given all the things that everyone else had. So back to the point is, you know, I was still on the pen and paper while everyone else was doing all their drawings in digital. And then that fateful day when the old man got a PC, you know, on the dial-up life. It was mean. That kind of just changed the game for me. Like, it was seeing this new medium and I could do a range of things and be engaged by it.
What did you first play with, like on that day, on that fateful day?
That fateful day was just clicking things and just like, what does this button do?
Didn't it take
Start menu.
Didn't it take half the day to just get your internet up?
Oh, bro.
To wait for the dial-up?
That's putting it nicely at the moment, bro. But I think what I really started getting into, because my older brother, with him, he started off it for me, so I was watching him doing it, and you know, he's quite a bit older than me, that, you know, he wouldn't let me play, but I was, you know, on the sidelines just doing those look ones and over there until I got a turn, or until, you know, he's like, oh, you can play this, and it was games.
What were the games? What were the games?
I can't tell you about the games yet. No, it was like Minesweeper, like it was even like the old school ones, like Solitaire.
Some of you may not know these things, that may not have heard of these games.
They're still there, surely, aren't they? I don't know.
I don't even know if Minesweeper still exists. I don't know.
That was the free games.
Those are the free games.
Now
We're all about the free game
what's
life.
the free games now? The Fortnite and all?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
I think it was free.
I think so.
We're showing our age.
And then it kind of went on to the RuneScape days, the MMO RPG, and then it's just like, wow, there's other people I can interact with. There's other engagements I can do with people by doing things like quests and this and that. I was like, wow, this is crazy that you can actually do these kind of things and interact with people around the world.
Can I ask a question? When you started to kind of like, I guess, be really inspired and almost just excited by what was out there, was it at this point that you thought, and I might be jumping, but like, I could design this? Like, I want to design this? This is so awesome, this is amazing. Far out, imagine if I was creating these spaces and these opportunities.
I think back then, those inspirations weren't necessarily on my mind. It was more about, you know, getting through the next day and sort of like, if I can play the game, I can play the game. But back then it was like, how would I get to a job? And the job wasn't necessarily me making it or becoming this person to, you know, to build all these beautiful experiences. And that, I think there was a bit of a shock. You know, back where I was coming from, we didn't necessarily be like, yeah, we could do this.
Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, and when it kind of kept carrying on, like I love drawing, and that architecture was what I was really good at.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was like really good at doing that, and I was going to pursue that because I was like, I could use my creativity, but then through this medium, because this is supposedly meant to be the way that you're doing it, and then I basically got bored of it.
Wow.
But maybe revisit one day, you know, try and maybe do my own house, but...
I just gave him the eyes. Our house, thank you, our house, not your house.
We are. Yeah.
I'm going to just switch subject altogether. So you guys both studied, so you did some fancy Masters of Design Innovation. What does that even mean? Like, honestly, what does that even mean? Because that just sounds bougie as hell.
I still don't know what that means.
Okay, cool.
Like at the time, the design innovation still took the aspects of design, but then they had it in a range of different areas, from like media to industrial to culture and context. So I had a range there that I could sort of pick and choose how they went through. And then the innovation part was like, how do you problem solve through these different mediums? And at that time, the mediums were like, the new cool things was like 3D printing, 3D modeling. And then I was like, and I was like, wow, you can actually draw something up, put it into the screen, design it, model it up, then pull it out into 3D print it right in front of you. And I was like, this is crazy, like mind blowing. And then that kind of where the inspiration stemmed from, of like, what are the possibilities of emerging tech?
That's the, I guess, those tools that you don't know about, and then you're just like, whoa, I can do this now. And it's usually, that's like, you can get a spark from that. So
it was, 100% was. I was like, I'm gonna design some cool, like epic branding design kind of wear, and then like, whoa, there's 3D modeling. I was like, oh, okay, 3D modeling, what does that do? That's in gaming. That's the gaming that I've been playing, you know? And then you're just like, how do I animate this? And like, how do I build out a gaming scene? And then I was like, what do those go into? Like,
connecting the pieces.
Connecting all those pieces. But that's where the inspiration started. It's just, we don't necessarily get taught or given that, you know, these are pathways you could go into, but, you know, we had to learn by doing quite a lot.
Have a tutu.
That's it, have a tutu, always tutuing.
And what was Dev Academy like? And what did you study?
So, what did I study? Like before Dev Academy? I did audio engineering. Wow. So this was like straight after school. I did audio engineering. That was for like a year. I did that with Esau actually. Me and Esau did.
Amazing.
That was like still actually very heavily influenced by digital software as well. And I think, I'll keep it at that. And then, it had been like, I guess years later is when I decided to do Dev Academy as well. So, and that was just a 3-month course.
And what do you learn in those 3 months? Because that sounds, to me, that's crazy, but amazing, because it's 3 months. Student loan hopefully is somewhat reduced from like 4 or 5 years. And you came out of that with the ability to go into a job?
Pretty much, I would say, like in the 3 months, like I'd say everything's been streamlined to the point where like you're only learning like what you need for like job, for like a job. So I think the way that Dev Academy works is they go back and forth with other companies that are in the tech space already, and they're like asking them like, what would be a good software engineer, like in your eyes, like what are the things they need to know?
Cool.
So it's it's good, like little collaboration between the two. But you learn stuff is like very specific, but like JavaScript, which is like, I guess, building blocks of websites.
Nice.
So that's like the main technology for websites. So you learn about JavaScript. Then there's other 2 technologies called HTML and CSS. But these are like the very, very like small baseline building blocks for, I guess, a pathway into being a software engineer.
Nice.
Because there's actually a lot of languages everywhere. They all do the same things. And they're just like any other tool as well. So one might be better at doing this specific thing, or there's another language that's better for doing gaming. But I think the main thing is just learning one thing first, and then as long as you can learn it well. Or you don't have to learn it well, but like as long as you're like, this looks like this other language. So depending on what pathway you want to choose, or even if you don't know what pathway, like I didn't know what pathway I was going to go down, but I just knew that this was like the first, building block that you need. So I think they put you in a pretty good position, so that straight after the course, like like this is what people use like day in, day out for some specific tech companies.
Here's a question. How do you tell your family what you do? Do you tell your family what you do?
My one's, I guess, pretty easy. I just say, oh yeah, I make apps. And they're
nice.
like, oh yeah.
Okay, that's good.
That is an easy one, yeah.
As I'm changing through my career, it has becoming a lot easier to communicate it. But basically, like, I love to re-envision experiences through product, through strategy, through digital, in a way that I have my lens through it. And then sort of...
Hey, what does that mean when you say that? I have my lens through it. What does that mean?
It's just like how my perspective and my culture and how I portray that these are something meaningful that we should be pursuing, we should focus on, we should look into because of this way. And I think that's kind of where the challenges and opportunities have come in tech, is like this perspective and navigating that and all of these various stakeholders and teams that wanted to challenge you and your why. And then it's just like, how do you put your best foot forward and determining that this is something we should focus on.
I think what I've learned, because I've only been in my role or in tech for like a year, but a lot of like senior engineers that I talk to, the main thing is like your voice, and like it doesn't matter like who you are in the tech company, like you're gonna come to a point where everyone comes together and you're like, how do we solve this problem? But the main thing is like you have to bring your voice, and no matter like basically what you're saying, like your own lens that you have, like you need that diverse, not even just like diversity in terms of like gender or race, but like diversity of like thought as well. So it's like you might think of something that someone else around the table doesn't know, but yeah, I'd say don't be afraid to like think different, because like that's all I would say. Yeah.
Like those diversity of thoughts is quite an interesting topic, because it can stem from a lot of different areas, from your music or even lived experiences that, growing up, and how you're interpreting or how you understand the lay of the land. There is a lot of people in the room, and then it's just trying to communicate those experiences back that, hey, this is something a little different, this is the why.
How have you found your voice? Because it's really easy to say, after being in the industry, you need to share your voice. But there have to have been a moment, especially when, like, I know for myself, when I first had my first job, I was terrified to speak up. Like, I just became like the wallpaper. Like, I just wanted to fit in. I just wanted to not be told off. I just wanted to like everyone to like me, which no one ever always likes you. But I just wanted to almost like assimilate, and that's the opposite to what we need, right? Like, we shouldn't be blending ourselves in. We should and can and will stand out and stand tall. But there's a journey to get to that stage. So like, how did you find your voice?
I would say like I'm still not like fully, I wouldn't say I'm like fully 100% confident to like, yo, I'm gonna say this. It still takes a bit of like effort, and also I still think it takes effort from the others as well that's around. So like who you surround yourself with. I'm grateful that the company that I work for, they really, what's the word I'm looking for? They're always asking you, or asking anyone that's around the table to be like, for your opinions. And they're not even just opinions for like something that you're working on specifically right now, but also like feedback just in general of like, how did we work together? But that also helps a lot, as if someone else is actually asking you like, oh, what do you think? Yeah, because it would be, and I know it is tough if no one else around in the room is just like, if they already know, they don't want to hear from someone else. Or
because I think you mentioned before that there are only two, and you're one of them, Afagasis at your company of about 100 people. Now, that's not uncommon in the industry overall, right? Like, there's very, very few of us that exist in these organizations. But even that, like, how does that feel for you? What's that experience like?
I guess it's a bit different, because like, when you grow up, you're surrounded by your family and friends, and like that's what you're used to. And then, you go to your company and it just feels like I guess just a different shift, and I still don't fully feel like, what's the word, like at home, or, you know, like sometimes you can just be like, be yourself. Authentic, like, you know, like you still can, there's people out there that like really shine and can do that. What was the
you
question
can be
again?
honest.
Like,
what's your experience when there's only 2 people and you're one of them?
I feel like, not that I should put it on myself, but I feel like me and this my other colleague, I feel like we have just this opportunity to like, you know, make more of that, or like what can we do with this situation, like
to grow.
Yeah, to grow and like, yeah, I guess it's like us two there, like we have more of a challenge to challenge other people on their thoughts as well. But I think also, yeah, I think it's just a good opportunity, I reckon.
And Dylan, what about you? How did you find your voice at Xero? So you've been at Xero for about 5 years, and that was your first big tech job. And I think even you mentioned there were only 2 Māori breathers, if I've said that right.
Breather or breather-ins? Breather.
Oh, wow.
Breather is singular. Breather-ins is plural. Okay. The brothers, breather, bros. Gizzy, we're quite well known to slang everything, or just, you know, it's either having a laugh or kind of making everything shorter.
But not plethora, eh?
That's just another lingo.
That's a lingo that I've learnt the ways of.
No, someone's planted seeds. You need to take those ones out. Nah, jokes.
Hey, I was quite smart back then until...
You're still smart. You're still smart.
Sorry about my lingo. The Gizzy way.
Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. And it was you and your boss. And how did you find your voice, and what was that experience like?
Like I can be quite a confident human, and I'm very loud and opinionated as well. What's she looking at? What's happening over here? And I guess the space there is that at first I didn't dress normally on my first day.
What does that mean? What's normal?
Oh yeah.
Like I came in with a dress shirt. I came in with boots on because, you know, I thought this was the way. I didn't have any mentor. I was like, these guys have taken a risk on me, and I'm coming. I left Wellington to be in Auckland for this massive tech role. And then I was like, so I'm going to try and dress what they are about. Which is, you know, the Pākehā way, but in a way that I thought would be comfortable for them to see me in. I don't know if that stems from a lot of you know, past experiences that have happened, but that at that point I wasn't comfortable. I was definitely a fish out of water. But then I came into this team, and it was actually the total opposite to what I thought it was going to be. And I guess that was it stemmed from his leadership at the time. Was like he created a good culture for us. It was very diverse. I think we had probably the most diverse team in all of Xero. And at that time there was like a few thousand back then. And then we had like 2 Māori, we had a Samoan breather, we had 2 Chinese, we had Indian. It was amazing. Sorry, I missed all of them, but it was really cool that we had everyone around each other as well. We were the loud bunch. We had music on. I guess being in media and that, we kind of, you know, creative, and we just vibe and creating it ourselves. But still, that was initial fostering, and then which kind of gradually moved me to where I am now. That at that time we were comfortable here in our little space, a little bubble. But then once we left that little bubble out in Xero, things were a lot different. They were very, very different. And it's,
How did you hold on to your voice? How did you, like, because if you came in, you assimilated, or you thought you had to, you found out you could actually kind of relax almost to a certain degree, right? And you had a good safety net and almost like padding.
Yeah.
And then you had to go back out to fend for yourself. How did you hold on to you when you were doing that?
Yeah, I think like I really wanted to be approachable with people, and I'll just go up and talk to people.
Nice.
I'll just spin a good yarn, have a good laugh. You know, do you want a bit of a jam on the ping pong table? Do you want to lose? You know, do you want to
lose?
spin up the camaraderie between competitiveness? You know, I grew up in sport, and I was like, come at me, bro, if you want to lose.
Oh.
And that was sort of my way at the start, because back then, as I said before, there might have been 2 or 3 Māori. I knew of like 3 or 4 Pacific people out of like a few thousand people, and it was gnarly. And where that was is changing to where we are now, thankfully, kind of with Zero starting to take a bit of a stance in diversity and inclusion. Yeah.
I want to ask a question, and before I get there, and I'll let you sit on this, around like, what was your big break in tech? Like, you talk about the big break and you know, that transition from hustling, trying to figure out how you're going to get there, figuring it out, what skills you need, and then when someone finally says yes, you know, and there is that moment where it can just completely change the trajectory. It's another terrible word. They can completely change the course of your path, and there is that moment where it's like, it is a big break. But before I get there, and I'm going to ask you another question, Dylan. So, because of this one I've been thinking about just now. So you've moved from Gisborne to Wellington to Auckland. Now those are not small moves. Those are huge moves, especially because I'm assuming you moved alone. Yeah. You might not necessarily have known that many people in either of these places. And that takes a whole bunch of bravery, courage, like boldness, and I guess a level of like fearlessness. What was that like?
There were very massive changes. Small boy in a very small town, going to all to the big cities. It was scary. Like, I didn't understand, you know, all the student loans, and I didn't understand all these, you know, is this the right way? And I went up, you know, my dad dropped me off, and you know, that was kind of like, you got this road type situation. Because
terrifying.
Because he doesn't know, my family doesn't know. There wasn't necessarily like being told how to do certain ways in Gizzy, unless you were like superstars at high school and they had like all these things all set up for you. You know, it was very, very different and hard to navigate both yourself internally and towards also my other whys, and my other whys was my dad. You know, there was you know, the things I was brought up as, I didn't want to let him down type situation, and he gave me all those opportunities that, you know, your parents said about, like, he can try these things, you can try that. He did all those things. He was opening all the doors. He knew he could he could do for me with what he had. And then it was sort of up to me figuring out, like, you know, to make that decision. So he gave a lot of onus back onto me, but he opened all the doors. And so I felt like I owed it to him to go out and pursue those spaces.
And how did you navigate? So you talk about, like, you did it, you navigated, but how? Like, what did you lean on, or what did you, I mean, obviously you tried to start some competitions with all the students around you, clearly, and challenging everyone, but like, honestly, how did you figure it out? Well,
fortunately, you know, sort of in the first week, Te Rōpū Awhina, Māori Pacific community, or like group within Victoria University, they were sort of like, you know, the people that I leaned on, and the friends that I have still now. Yeah, and they helped me figure out opportunities or ways of learning, ways of future that you could go into, because, like, you know, I was just, as I said, a fish out of water, didn't understand everything, didn't know everything, and that was the first real big steps for me in terms of finding my safe space, the group that you're talking about, to lean on and to talk to each other, to best each other in our courses, and I guess without those kind of first initial strong pillars there, it would have been a lot more rougher than where I am. Yeah.
Beautiful. Now going back to the big break. The big break. What was it like? Did you have one? What did it look like?
So the way that I got into Halter, I think it started off with hustling, so going out and to meetups, trying to meet who's in the industry, trying to research and see what companies are actually out there, what are the tech companies and what are the things that draw me to it.
Yeah, cool.
Halter was one specifically because I saw on their website it said the future of farming, and they had this collar on the cows, and they could guide cows straight from the car. I was like, yo, this is out of a movie or sci-fi.
Whack.
And this is the stuff that excites me when I think of tech. It's all these what's the next new innovation? And I was like, oh, I want to be part of that. But it was a lot of hustling. So had to research and see who works there. I saw a few names that pop up on LinkedIn,
nice.
The head of engineering and lead software developers. So try to reach out to them, and they gave me got to have a meeting, got to I guess give them my story, my background. I don't have any experience in tech, so I had to give them from a creativity kind of point of view, and I guess what I've done in that 3 months.
Yeah.
And this is what I can show. I guess that was the conversation I had, but they wouldn't take me on straight away because they were like, oh, you don't have experience.
Wow.
But are you willing to do this an internship for 3 months, a short-term contract? But obviously you're not guaranteed this after all of this.
Wow. That is tense.
So this took me about 2 months to get to that point. This is straight after doing the course. 2 months of hustling, trying to meet people, and then getting that. At the same time, I'm still working in hospitality.
Wow.
And I knew that I was pretty much finished with hospitality. I was like, I wanted to keep moving up. I wanted to do more things. But going back to the 3 month contract, I was like, oh, I'm gonna just have to take the leap of faith, not knowing that I'm probably gonna be coming back to the cafe after this. I don't know. I didn't even know how good I am. That's the thing.
That's crazy.
Because I put in all this work, and I know I'm gonna work hard, but I don't even know how much impact I have yet. I don't know yet.
The value.
What was driving you? What was that force behind you that was driving you to go for it?
I think it had been on my mind to always jump into something I think tech. Carry on doing something exciting and creative, but also being able to keep myself on my feet and my family as well. I had my son on the way at the same time, so there was another I wasn't
on your mind. There's things happening in the world.
Getting
that's
closer
a pretty
to
big
30.
force behind you. Hey, that's not
baby's
a
on the
small
way.
first.
Getting closer to 30 was one. Not that that's a massive one.
You just told everyone.
We're not close.
October.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say my back was fully against the wall, but it was okay, it's time to I thought myself okay, it's time to nail down and try and think of something that will, something that I can jump into that will last for years, and
because you are kind of set for life once you take a skill like that, especially a digital skill where we know that the future of the world is digital.
That's definitely the direction, and I always know that there's always going to be work for that. That's this industry that you go in. So I had to take that plunge to go into that role for 3 months. The whole time I didn't know if I was going to get the job or not, all the way through, but I was just going hard. I was just trying to do the best I can. Also at the same time, just learning anyways, learning what does the company do. what is even my role? Just so that I can take these experiences to, you know, somewhere else that I can like hold on to. But yeah, it got to like maybe 2 months in, and in the back of my mind, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to start looking for work soon. Like, I was like, I don't know if I have the job yet. And yeah, so I was like, oh, I'm just gonna have to like chat to my manager, and I told him, I was like, oh, I just wanna, I know I'm not supposed to know right now, but I just wanna know, like, am I like doing well, or you know, how's this looking? And luckily, like, yeah, that same day he was like, oh, well, actually, I was gonna tell you like next week, but we're gonna give you the role.
Whoa,
and like at that time, I was like, oh man, I guess that's that big break.
That's the feeling you hear. That aha moment's just like, kia ora.
Yeah, felt it in my heart. I was like, oh man, got all like teary eyed and stuff. Like,
I'm getting teary eyed.
Yo, and I was like, yo, this is it. Like, cause I had been, you know, well, it was 3 months. The 3-month course, I guess altogether it was maybe 6 months of just going hard at something you don't even know you're gonna like. You don't even know if I'm gonna win at the end. But I guess that was me like getting that checkered flag, like you pass, you're in. But that's, I think, like even still, like if I was to give back to people like thinking about jumping into the industry, like you don't have to be like super smart. You don't have to know everything right now. It's all a journey, and you definitely like learn on the job. But I guess like the main thing is just like what voice can you bring to the table once you're in that role as well. But yeah.
That's beautiful.
All you really need is just your foot in the door, and then into tech, like if that's where you want to go. And because even still, I don't know what my journey is going to be like. But as long as you're in there, you can learn on the job, and people can guide you. And
But I also love the fact that it's like, it's a foot in the door, but you have to be willing to get scratched up. You're throwing in elbows, knees, like whole bodies to get that foot. And you got to be okay with that. Like it's part of it. It's all of us to a certain degree. You got to fight for that foot in the door.
I wouldn't say it was the easiest route, and exactly like what you said, like you still have to put in a lot of effort and a lot of work. Like, there's a lot of hours you gotta like really focus in. But you can definitely,
I'm not sure if it's like you even had to put in more effort to feel like you're gonna keep your job, and like to show up more than everyone else. It's that was a crazy feeling,
Yeah, you're right. I always think of like, you know, NBA stories, and it's like there's people like Kobe Bryant, and they're trying to be the best, and you know that they need to put in more hours than the next person. I think exactly what you're saying, like you have to kind of do that because everyone else is already in the company, they're already sitting there. Like I've done this for years, so you do have to be a bit better, or try to put more effort in than the next person, and that's what it feels like. But it's all worth it at the end.
Dylan, what about you? What was your big break?
Let me think about it. It was crazy, right? Because at the end of my bachelor, I still didn't know really what I was doing, where I wanted to go. During that time, I took a lot of comp sci papers, and I was really into my coding.
Yeah, we
took a lot of comp sci papers.
So,
are you trying to say you're like a triple threat right now? Like numbers, design?
Well, numbers was the game, and so like the application was coding through using it into it, and so that's the ways. It was like I did a lot of front end. And then sort of I kept it with me, and then because after bachelor's I didn't know what to do, I thought, okay, safe option, I'll just try and do my master's, and that way I'm gonna get a job, no matter what. And through that kind of experience, I kind of found that industrial design, I do love it, but this new technical side of, and digital particularly, was this new route where I was like, wow, augmented reality, virtual reality. I was like, this is epic. What is this thing? How do I? This is going to change up gaming. This is going to change up, you know, all these things that I love doing. How do I figure this out? And I built my first app when I was doing my postgrad, and I was like, whoa.
What was the app?
It was like a food ordering service, so you don't get food envy.
So Uber Eats.
Basically,
you made Uber Eats?
No. Well, basically, it was like you could see the food where you are to the size and how much you're going to get, so you know what you're getting.
Wait, so to the size though. So is this like
I'm a big eater. I need to know if I'm going to get enough food. It was crazy, but yeah, I sort of took all of that with me because there was still a lot of unknowns, and New Zealand in itself is still quite behind in industrial. There's not necessarily a lot of opportunities, so then even so, there's less openings to even get a job. So there would probably be like 1 or 2 of us that would get a job in our whole course, and there was that's how bad it was. So there was even more risk from myself taking a leap into this area, me not knowing that actually there's not many jobs, but I love doing it, and then finding out like, oh, what other value can I add? So in that master's kind of space, that's when I took some time to be like, all right, I need to stand out. And then with a bunch of friends started my...
I mean, all of that confidence, all of that yarn spinning, all of that wasn't enough?
Well, sometimes you got to try and do something yourself without everyone else giving it to you in a silver platter. So how do I stand out if everyone else is trying to do the same as me? A lot of people came into their masters, and I'm like, okay, I need to start doing some side hustles or contracts. And then I started up a small little startup, little digital design agency with a few friends. And then we were just out there hustling. So it was just, you know, gift of the gab, talking a whole lot of schmack, and then being like, this is the new tech, you know, do you want to try and put this into your business model? And, you know, I didn't have a clue about meeting up with clients, and I was out here just like...
Do you want to apologize to all your old clients right now?
Actually, there's a few there, you know what's up. We did some good stuff, man. That was the trying to make my own break.
Yeah, cool.
Of like,
I love that.
Trying to add my own value on top of something like he's doing his masters, he's out here trying to do his own business.
So you built your break.
I'm trying to build, like I was trying
Did you like that? Did you like
I got the tools.
Oh my God.
The skills.
And now we're a dancer. And now we're a dancer.
And I think that was the attributes that my old man put into me is like, he's a hard worker, and he doesn't have all of these, you know, amazing titles, this and that. He just knows how to work hard. And then I was like, I can work hard.
Shout out to you, Anthony.
I can work hard, so let me do what I know that I've been brought up doing. So went out there, find my opportunities, work a lot longer hours, trying to hustle, trying to create stuff, learned a lot, failed a lot more. And then that kind of built up my break into zero. Did you know that actually I started Dev Academy? I did my masters, and then I started Dev Academy because I was like, I want to add more coding.
You're right.
Wait, so you went to Dev Academy?
Yeah, bro, Wellington. Yeah, I started it. I didn't finish it because Zero snapped me up afterwards. Yeah.
Sorry guys, got to leave there, you got a job.
Well, it was weird. I didn't actually remember applying for the job because I was applying for so many jobs.
Yeah, I did that too, 100%.
I threw out like 100 and I got back like 5.
I call it fishing. You know, you just got to cast that net real wide.
It was it. And
if you catch one, all good. If you catch none, you just try again.
That was it. And creative tech, it was really hard, right? It was very, very hard because everyone was trying to do these cool new things. And
100%.
What my managers, there's 2 of them, one in San Fran, one here, that kind of, I think this is where the break came. We had a chat, got the first interview. I was pumped as, I was like, oh, wow, I've heard of Zero. They're cool. They're cool.
They start with an X.
Yeah. And they were like, wow, you're doing all of these things and changing up this kind of space. And they didn't hear about this new activations with doing AR and VR and these new experiences.
So you're saying that when you met them, You showed them up. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I met them, and then I made them make a bespoke role for Zero.
Oh, it's the voice. That's that voice.
For what I was doing, right?
So your voice was shining through already.
Not just the voice, I showed the portfolio.
Oh, and the receipts.
Yeah, I was like, man, I know what I'm doing.
Do it.
And this is me hustling, and this is basically a year or just under a year out of uni.
Yeah.
But I had already done all of these things while I was doing my master's. So this is like a couple of years and hustling, and then showing them that this is a new way. I know how to work hard.
Yeah, wow.
I don't necessarily know this space.
Yeah, of course.
But I can add a lot more value to these areas if you wanted to take a chance on me.
Nice.
And then they respun up a new role, changed it, and I was still the only person at Zero with that title until I changed roles just recently. But that was the first huge major break. Yeah.
That's a mean story. Yeah.
That was a mean story. And how did it feel? What did you do on that day? When did you get that? Was it an email or a phone call? I think mine was an email.
Was it?
Yeah, mine was an email.
Mine was a phone call.
Oh, the voice.
Yeah, and then they were like, well, at first I was getting the heebie-jeebies because they were like, oh, we're into checking references and that, and you were getting that initial like, don't do that to me because, bro, my heart attack is like about 10 seconds away. So that was crazy. I was still, out here in Wellington. Like, I had no family around, but I had my friends, and then it's like, and I got the call, and I was like, wow. I was like, I feel like I finally made it.
You did it.
A little bit.
You
and then,
did it.
so like the first person I called was my dad.
Oh,
and just
shout out to you, Anthony.
just to be like, we made it type situation. And that was a surreal feeling because, like, I don't know of anyone else really in tech when I was doing that in Gisborne. And that was kind of the huge moments. I was like, man, this could be a pathway for us in the future. And so with all of my whānau, I'm like, we're going to be learning all these things, we're going to be doing all those spaces, but it was amazing, for sure. Scary, because then I had to do another big move, and I was like, this is all my people's here. I've been still hustling, doing some cool contracts, and then I was like, I'm going to leave for this to try and do something else, or to try and further myself in these areas, and just took those leaps and didn't take a whole lot with me, and off I went. I went. Yeah.
One thing I realized is, like, as good as what an idea is, or how good the idea is, like, you still need, it's actually like a team. I always thought like you could, I mean, you probably could, there's people out there, you could just do it all, like one man team, like do it just yourself. So maybe it's not like, what do I want to be, but maybe like, it's like, who do I want to work with, or what do I want to, what team do I want to be part of that's, doing something out there, which I don't know yet, but I just know like, something along the lines of, as long as it's like advancing, I guess, like human, what is that word?
Humankind?
Yeah. Like, what's the next step for us? Like, there's a few companies doing random stuff like SpaceX going to Mars. Like, I guess unlocking what's something new. That's what excites me.
Cool.
And I think I'd like to be part of that, which is part of why I also joined Halter as well, because they're also what's the future of farming basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All of that's just exciting to me because. Of that.
Yeah. What about you, Dylan?
Like, I've always been a storyteller, and
we can tell.
Loves the yarn. And for me, it's just I've always told everyone else's stories, and so that means like I've always had an entrepreneurial mindset. I wanted to do my own thing for the reasons that I want to instead of everyone else's. And so as you heard before, like I was a hustler. I'm trying to figure out these things, learn by doing. And now in the space, I'm learned by how they have done it, taking all of their skills and their applications into what I would want to do with this space. So learning the ins and outs of how would I build out a business through building out all of these massive products for this massive company, taking all those learnings to that I can do that myself, go out on my own, but again with that team, because you know I've failed in a lot of areas of trying to do things myself. You know, I've got a good partner here that we can sort of navigate that journey as well, and I think that also that's a good thing for me. Like as I said, like I've always done it myself, but I can also lean on others to help on that journey. So between there and now, learning all I can, figuring out where that space is going to go, moving to those next kind of roles, understanding that capability, what I need from that to then hopefully do it for myself. And then the major part for it is that like I want my family to be able to not have that rougher road that I did, because that was, you know, there was a lot of ways to equal 10 on that one. I definitely took the hardest route to equal 10, and so if I can make that easier and show pathways and help them navigate it as a pillar of guidance for my whānau, then in essence that could have a ripple effect in my community as well. So those are definitely my guiding stars.
What do you love about working in tech? What are some of the benefits? Salary.
I ain't gonna lie, the salary is very, very good.
Could be better. They want pay rises.
Should have pay rises. Nah, like as Julia said, that when you get into the industry, even the starting salary is really good. That's crazy actually, that you can start into that, and then sort of even those first initial years, you're just like big leaps up in the money side. The other aspect is like travel. Like it was crazy. I went to San Fran in my first year, and I'm like,
what?
I had barely gone out of New Zealand by that time. Like, don't mind me, man. Not a traveller much.
So Gizzy, Welly, Auckland.
Yeah,
and then San Fran. Yeah. So that was like a mind-boggling, bending, eye-opening kind of space. I was like, wow, tech can take you around the world. And I was like, okay, this is cool. How do we, you know, what does this mean, and how can I keep doing that? So that like travel money was epic. They actually give it quite a lot of perks. Like, you know, the tech game is that they're always trying to grab all the, you know, the best potential.
Kool-Aid, it's called.
Best potential talent, and so they give you all the perks. Then they got all the discounts. You got all of these like amazing things that you don't have to worry about, and they kind of add up into the game. And also it's quite, they use it as a bit of a ploy, but you know, invest you into the company by giving you shares into it, and so you want to stay longer so that you can get more of them, you know, that accrues over time. And kind of those definitely stood out for me, like initial as like value to grab. But back to my other point was that I wanted to learn the way, and here in New Zealand there's not necessarily a lot of like big tech opportunities, and I went for the head of it, and I was like, I'm going for it. That once I was in, that I can learn how these multi-billion-dollar companies are just doing what they're doing. So yeah.
Awesome.
Solid.
What about you?
Yeah, first one, dollar value. Like that's the big point. So like, I guess in that space of like my 6 months jump, I'd already increased my weekly or hourly. It just went up by $10, like from my previous job. But I guess that's like kind of normal in tech. Well, I don't know if it's normal, but that's one of the good perks is, you know, you can feed your family, and pretty good, and it's still gonna keep going up. Like I'm still just in a junior level, and you know this can still go up.
What are the average, or that you know of, or the top software engineers? How much do they make?
The top,
Real talk.
See, like, I'm like...
Are we talking New Zealand or are we talking
Let's
like...
go New Zealand first.
Yeah, I think it's... For me, like, I had to learn the differences between hourly, like, because I was just on wages for ages, and salaries. But salaries is, 100 plus. Yeah. So it might be like 150 for like the leading seniors, maybe a bit more, depending where you go to. That's 100K a year. I don't know how much that is in an hour.
No, I don't know.
That's a pass.
But
what
it's
about,
pretty high. Yeah.
No, I was going to ask, what about in the product space?
Oh, they're easy, like 100 plus starting.
Oh, starting.
Yeah. I've heard of grads coming out nowadays and getting to 200K.
Yeah,
graduates.
And definitely outside of New Zealand, you're making ridiculous money.
Yeah.
But and some of the big tech kind of places that if you jump all those levels, like you're easy 200 plus, and then if you're becoming managers, and it's just ridiculous.
Out the gate.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, like when you do bring up outside of New Zealand, that is pretty crazy. I think it gets to like, what, 300, 400?
Yeah.
And
I saw some prices, they're like, oh, looking for like a senior engineer, like 400K USD. And I was
just
like...
throwing it out there.
I was like, what?
Anyone want us?
Does that money, like, is that real? Is that real money?
I was like, this is
or is
crazy.
that monopoly money? Because that's crazy.
Well, it just shows that not just in New Zealand, if you wanted to do something elsewhere, that there is so much opportunity in the world, in this space, that you can get this job anywhere and have a really good job. Yeah. And nowadays with the flexibility, work from home, remote working, you can do work, travel, work from another place, work from here. It's unreal.
What are the big challenges that you found in your journey and depending on what you want to share in your current job, specifically to, what does it feel like being the one of one in the rooms, and what are the challenges that you face in that space as well?
Like naturally, like even like tech plus farming is all new to me. Yeah. And so the challenges is like, how do I not look dumb in this room? Like the questions that I ask, like, wait, what's the difference between, you think it's a silly question, but don't just sit there and just be like, oh, yep, I understand what that is in the room. Because question it, because the more that you know, even if it's like a silly question, the more you know, like you can have a bigger impact on like the problem that you're trying to solve. You might be like, oh, if only I knew that like last year, like I would have done this. Why don't you do it this way? But
because it's all about communication, and how the space that you're in is safe enough to communicate and be able to be yourself in this space. A lot of these kind of big tech environments cannot be as comforting to be able to voice your opinions, your feedback and all that. And that was probably the journey for me, because I was so outspoken that I was always talking up or this and that, and in some places it didn't kind of reciprocate the right response, and people were looking at me, or the feedback was a lot more sharp and snappy towards the space. And so it was about how I'd navigate giving everyone else and then also including them in my discussion to like understand of like, what does that make you feel with me, in the space of how I put it this way. So being inclusive through my way, to be inclusive for everyone, was kind of the stance that I took on it.
Do you think that those environments were inclusive of you though?
No, that they weren't. No, that's for sure. No.
But see, isn't that so interesting? Like, you get the job, you get the skills, and then you got to work double time.
That's it. That was, as I said, I work extra harder. That was mean English.
No, we love it. We love it here.
I worked a lot harder.
You studied to get a job.
To be not where everyone else was. To be a lot more. So that we could be seen at the same level. Yeah, wow. Fascinating. Yeah, it was an interesting kind of space, but then over time, I also had such a really great manager, Daniel Schwarzbaum. You're the man. Holla at you, the bro. He gave me opportunity.
Yeah, wow.
He like we're real close now, like real good friends. He's not my current manager, but he gave me opportunity. He understood me, and he had great people leadership, empathy. It stemmed a lot from him. So the opportunity being that he would let me do what I need to do because he knew I was good at what I was doing. And then he was just sharing it back to everyone else that this guy knows what he's talking about, and giving the not the shoulder tap, the
nudge.
Yeah, the nudge to be like, we should put our putia behind him. You know, we should back him.
Do you know what's so interesting? Is like how a manager can make or break you.
It does. It creates the environment, that safe space. He like let me be me.
Yeah.
And then I learnt the ways as well.
Yeah.
So there was like a two-pronged attack going towards that, and then from that space opened up the doors to where I am now of like how I navigated with all these different teams, communicated, they understood my value, I could do all these things, and though this is my job, I knew how to do a lot more.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Because I think there's sometimes, especially in your early stages of your career, whereas if you cop a bad manager, man, that can destroy your confidence, eh? Like, and sometimes, especially when you're still finding your voice, I found that when they gave me feedback, like one of them told me, they compared me to someone else and they go, see, Julia, this person over there, they're like soft and malleable. And I can just, I can just get them to do what I want. Whereas you were like concrete. You were like stone, and I have to like chip away at you because you are. And I was like, that ruined me. I like went home and I was like, oh my God, I'm concrete. Like that's like the saddest thing. That's just like solid. What is she saying? I'm like solid, eh? I'm like, ow. I'm like pretty sure the Greek gods were like made out of this. But anyway, like those managers, they can really plant seeds that one can inspire you to or like mentors or managers, one can inspire you to think about a whole path. But then, and others that can obviously open doors or new opportunities. But sometimes those managers can also make you feel like it's on you. It's your fault. You're not meant to be in a space.
I guess like when we're talking leadership styles, ones that resonated quite well with myself was like he had quite a servant-led leadership, and it was very, very transparent. What is it called? Not work up, level up. Managing up leadership. So I could understand what he's up to. Yeah. He could understand what I was up to. Nice. And then we could help each other, not work against each other. Nice. So those are kind of things that like I value quite a lot, and I've learned from him and taking with me towards where I'll be going as well, so that everyone can understand everyone, and there's a lot of transparency that, if you're not feeling yourself, it's okay to be not okay with what's happening. And then when you've got awareness of it, how do we move or understand it, not move forward, understand what's happening.
You are both, whether or not you feel this or not, you're both role models. I'm gonna let that sink in. And if we need to reiterate this, the statistics clearly demonstrate, and the numbers that you're sitting within your own organization demonstrate the fact that you are leaders. Whether or not, again, how you identify with that is going to be your own personal journey, but just the fact that there are so few of us in this industry, and then if we think about it in the skills and practice that you're in, and then if you cut the industries, like in farming, hello, I don't think there's that many people in agri-tech, and then in fintech, again, I don't think there's that many people that look like us in fintech. So if you had to give some guiding words of wisdom, and you may not think that you're all the wiser, but if you had some lessons learned that you would share as role models, and again, not that that's a comfortable word, what would you be sharing?
In authenticity, to be yourself, you understand yourself and you know your own strengths. And I guess it's just understanding what those strengths are. And for myself is that I love creating things, I love problem solving, and I love to build experiences. So for me, it was just understanding what those are, to then talk to people, find out what can I do with doing these, using these skills, these strengths of mine in application. And so that's being curious with your own self and your own strengths, and then being confident that they are worth pursuing. Those are definitely what I held on to quite a lot, is because, you know, your own self is your own devil, basically. You know, there's stems across imposter syndrome, and you think you're not good enough, or what you're doing is not right. Believing in yourself that what I'm doing is, or what you are doing is the thing, or is what makes you feel yourself. Not right, not wrong, it's just being yourself. And then the people around you, how you create your space, you're gonna need them. Like, create your squad. Can come in all shapes and sizes, laughing, talking, academic, sport, social life. It all builds you up into being able to be yourself, because you don't want to be all career, you don't want to be all this. Yeah, it's all about a homage of all of them together, basically.
Nice.
What might it be? Yeah, I think like the inspirations that you're like drawn to, if there's something that like sparks your interest, like I guess keep moving towards it, like, and literally just have a tutu, like just play around with it. You don't have to think too hard about it. And yeah, there's gonna be hard days, there's gonna be easy days. Sounds so cliche, but like take it day by day. And I think whatever like you keep drawing yourself to, or what you're drawn to, like talk to people about that, like to your friends, any new people that you meet, like just keep saying like, oh yeah, I want to be this. And you never know, someone might be like, oh, I know this guy, or I know this person, I know this girl. Like opportunities are like everywhere.
Yeah.
But even if you keep telling yourself, oh, I'm gonna be, you know, software engineer, like you just know inside as well that you're gonna get there. Yeah.
Cool. So clearly the industry doesn't reflect us. There's not many of us here. There's not many of us that are necessarily sitting at that CEO level of these big multi-billion and million-dollar corporations and organizations. You know, what is one thing that you would love to see the industry do? Because so often it's us making the changes, right? You talk about how you're wanting to support Halter, to bring more Māori and Pacific into the space, or improve its diversity. Dylan, I know you as well, you're the co-chair of the Māori and Pacific ERG, the Employee Resource Group. You know, that's all extra work you're doing on top of your day jobs. What would you love industry to do? What steps? And it's not steps, there's no clear single answer, but what's the direction you'd love to see the industry move in?
Being as they are now is not good enough without diverse of thought, of lens, in the room, making those decisions, instead of being the afterthought towards like the tick box of like, oh, hey, the bro Dylan had a look at this, but you know, so that's all good.
Can you tell me the difference though? Can you like lay it down, the difference between here's this great idea, let's put all this thought into it and basically frame it all up and then come to you, versus saying, hey, we've noticed this is an area we want to move in.
That's it though. It's the
we don't know that. We don't know the
it's the
solution.
awareness piece around understanding that they don't have it, and then actually getting the people with the experience, both lived, both done the mahi, in those rooms, and building it, co-creating those systems, those models of these experiences, instead of one shoe fits all type situation, because we need to have a lot of different eyes, a lot of different thought in those rooms to build these out for our people, for the people. And if, you know, as we see now, that if we don't have these people in those rooms, it can lead to bad things. And hence with what's an awesome group of people that at Zero we're trying to help, not necessarily alleviate or navigate or negate, understand for Zero what's missing in this space for our people, and then wanting all of us in there to help build out their softwares to be this, you know, holy grail space. They need to be able to create, we need to create a space for us to feel safe, to then be able to understand who we are, where we are in this massive tech corporation, to then be able to grow ourselves into these roles that they need us in, to then be able to shoot back outwards within the teams, within the company, of ways of working, or, you know, being proud of your culture, being yourself. There's a lot there. There's so much there that I'm probably not going to say.
I see a similar thing to what you're saying. Is like you can have like the diversity, so like you tick the boxes, but then there's also the like inclusion and diversities, but like in the decision making and everything. So there needs to be diversity in like the different levels within the company. So you got your, I don't know, executive team. You know, you need to have like diversity in there, and it flows all the way down through the whole company. Every like decision piece, it needs to be, I think, especially like, you know, we're living in Aotearoa, you know, like how do you want to represent Aotearoa? And if, say, like a company's trying to be, you know, this big company, global, take over the world, but like you're still, like Aotearoa is in the Pacific, like no matter what, and like you need to have that voice. Like there's no doubt we need to have our voices in those places. So whether it's like leadership or decision making, I think that's the challenge there. Is like,
love that whittle, bro.
Yeah.
Nice. I think that almost ties back to like there needs more bravery. Like industry has to be braver in how it owns up to even the current state, how it even just says it for what it is. Like we're saying it. Like I wish there was more bravery in saying that this isn't good enough, and that there was more bravery in terms of the next step taken. And that's what I would love to see, is the industry being much braver and bolder in actually ensuring that voices are present, and that we are not only just the contributors, but we are ultimately the creators and the controllers of this industry in terms of navigating where it goes next and what are those next potential solutions for humankind. Some of the key things that I've taken out of our talanoa today has definitely been your voice, and the importance of your voice in a room and in a space, and being confident in sharing that voice and in finding it and in owning it. The other thing that I've loved out of this was build your break. I think that's one thing that's a key theme between both of you, is that you literally, like, blood, sweat and tears built your break and built where you're at right now, and that it's not something that's given to you. It's something that you fight for, and that you build momentum behind yourself for that moment of, yes, you're in, but like it's all on you to kind of foster that energy and foster that opportunity for yourself. I think the other one that I've heard both of you talk about is like, you know, going into something with the knowledge that it might not lead to something else, but you just believing and taking that first step forward. Like the risk that you took on going on a 3-month internship whilst also holding down a job, whilst also having baby on the way, that's huge. That is huge. But equally, you moving to Wellington, moving to Auckland, with not the support networks, with not the knowledge of what you needed to do in those spaces, with not knowing if they were going to pay off and get you a job, but you went anyway. Huge. That's a huge amount of bravery and boldness that takes. And I think for me, those are like 3 core things that I've heard out of today. And also know will grow each chapter of your journey. Like your voice is only going to get louder and bigger and change its shape. You're only going to continue, like what you're doing right now is going to build your next break. And there's going to be more risks that we step into, not knowing what they're going to lead to and not knowing what they're going to pay off as, but we do it anyway.